Hey everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome to Factorio. If you're playing this game right now, you have already discovered what an awesome game it is. So now, you want to find out how to make the most of the game. Well, I'm JoMomma and I'm here to show you 15 awesome sets of blueprints that are going to help you do just that. Gonna tell you a little secret? There's actually more than 15. But we'll get to that. First of all, what is a blueprint? For those of you who don't know, a blueprint is a template that you, as the user, makes, basically like a copy machine. You find a build you like, you make a copy of it, so you can build it with much greater speed and consistency later on in the game. So here's an example. This is a set of railroad track, and this is a blueprint. You can slide it wherever you want to go, you can rotate it. Once you left-click on wherever you want to put it, it leaves this ghost image, which can be used to manually recreate it. And watch this as I grab some railroad track, and I can use this as a guide. And that as such, and then, oops. But as you can see, it's a little bit tricky. It's not perfect, and it still leaves room for error. You can make a mistake, but there's another way to do this. As we get this last piece there. Oh, and you may not have noticed that there's also these rail signals that are here, and I don't have them in my inventory. We could place them, but I'm going to show you the second way to place a blueprint, and that is to get inside of an area that is controlled by construction robots. As you can see by this yellow square, everything within this square to the roboport over here is controlled by a robot. And as you can see, we click it and the robots are already on the way to do the work for us, and they are very slow. Anyway, watch them as they work. And there you go, too easy. Now, if you don't already know, you can research technology to increase the speed of your robots, so that will happen much faster. But there we go, a perfect recreation of the blueprint. So now you know what a blueprint is. Let's get right into the list. Number one is miner arrays. And that is exactly what it sounds like. It is an array of miners. And mining is one of the most basic things you do in Factorio. And as you can see, I've taken a whole bunch of mining arrays and just laid it kind of indiscriminately all across these ore patches. But this design right here, what you're going to want to do is come up with a design that is nice and tileable and very simple. It takes hundreds of miners to take advantage of a single ore patch in many cases, and it gets very tedious to try to place them by hand. But if you have a personal roboport, as I do, then you will be able to use a blueprint anywhere and just place these mining arrays in place. Here's what I'm going to do. In the description of the video, I'm going to place a link to all the blueprints that we're going to cover in this video, and I'm going to show you how to make this first one. We surround all the elements that we want to include in the blueprint, and you can see in the lower right corner of this square, of the square that we've clicked and dragged with left-clicked and dragged, that we've got a nice bill of materials for everything that makes up this blueprint. So here we see the blueprint laid out for us, and then what we can do is we can actually pick the icons that we want to use. So this is distinguished by using blue belts, which are kind of a late game thing. So we're going to go ahead and annotate that this is using blue belts, and we're going to call this, since it's the first blueprint, one mining array blue, because it has blue belts. So there we go, create the blueprint, and now as you can see, it's already labeled in our inventory as mining array blue, so we can put that in a blueprint book, and that will be a tool that we can use from now on. Okay, so all of you understand the importance of mining arrays. Number two, belts and balancers. Belts is probably the most common element that you're going to lay down in this game, and as we all know, aesthetics are important in this game, so laying them out nice and neatly is super important. Plus, it helps with organization, and it's just an all-around good thing to do. You're going to want to have a nice library of belt arrangements that are useful to you. For me, I tend to lay my belts out in fours, and it also fits well with the 4-belt balancer. Here we have a belt with 4 inputs, and then 4 outputs. The important function of this balancer is that it takes all 4 belts and balances the load evenly among the 4 outputs. This is going to be especially useful when loading trains and other things, so that half the train doesn't get loaded before the other half. Now, having belts also includes underground belts. It includes these splitters. They can be arranged in so many ways that I can't give you one blueprint and say, yes, this is the absolute go-to blueprint. That's going to be on you. You're going to come up with your own custom arrangement. But I will tell you, this is a very common arrangement right here, this 4-belt balancer, and I will definitely include that in the blueprints. You'll find that extremely useful. Number 3, one of my favorite aspects of the game, railroad layouts. Now, as you explore and extend outward in your world, you're going to find that one of the most useful ways to get around and get resources around the game are with railroads. Railroad tracks can be some of the most janky things to try to lay out, but they're super important to get right. And again, as with the belts, aesthetics are important, so laying them out nice and neatly is also important. So here are some of the most prolific examples that I use. There's a lot of schools of thought in how to lay out your railroad in Factorio, and I am very solidly in the camp of railroad loops. Basically, two-way traffic. As you can see by these rail arrangements, they're all at least 2 rails. It facilitates two-way traffic. It's very resource heavy, but it allows a lot more traffic to travel around the map. Plus, it just looks cool. It keeps the trains moving. It just looks really cool to me. This is where I fall. So, one of the most important intersections that I use is this roundabout right here. So I'm going to take a blueprint of this, and that will be available for you. If you try to lay it out on your own, it tends to not go well. So having a blueprint that helps you lay it out properly. I know it seems very simple, but it's for whatever reason, it seems to be a very difficult thing to lay out just right. So once you get it right, put it on a blueprint, and then it's there for you whenever you need it. Also, I can't say enough about the developers of this game, but one of the aspects that they added to this game is that the blueprints that you make in one game can be saved across all games. So if you come up with a great idea and decide to make a blueprint, you can export that blueprint to all the other save files so that it's there for you no matter what. You don't have to try to reinvent the wheel every time you start a new game. Now later in the game, as you set up railroads, it's absolutely imperative that you have a personal roboport to help you set them up, because otherwise it just becomes a royal pain in the neck. But I'll show you just how easily that can be utilized. We'll make a blueprint here. We'll call it, let's see, 3 two-way straight, because it is a straightaway. So let's see, why don't we use 2 railroad? Yeah, why don't we use 2 railroad icons for that, so we can tell it apart. Create the blueprint, and now that we've got our roboport, let's go ahead and try to lay some out for us. And it helps to actually turn the roboport on. We went ahead and put it on, and now we can actually use our. Oops. Oh, well, that was smart. Yeah, well, it's just as easily to screw things up. But here's one thing we can do. We can go ahead and we can deconstruct the whole thing. There we go. Let the robots take care of that. And then let's go ahead, grab our blueprint again, and let's try to walk in a straight line. And then you can just click and drag it as you go. All the robots will do the work for you. Not quite sure why they decided to stop there. Oh, because I ran out of railroad tracks. That's why. So let's go ahead, deconstruct, and the robots will pull it all up for us. So there you go. Blueprint's super easy to use. Very awesome. Notice this layout right here. We've got a railroad station, and we've got a bunch of inserters for loading a train. So this is an example of an arrangement that you really want to have on a blueprint, especially if you plan on using trains throughout your build. Number 4, smelters. Now, as you know, one of the most important early game things you'll do is to set up smelting arrays to try to make as much iron or copper as possible. And when you start doing it on a larger scale, having a blueprint that has everything laid out for you is uber important. Now, I've got 2 examples, 2 smelting arrays laid out here, and I will give them both to you. The first one up at the top is composed of early game materials. Pay no attention to the substations there. They're part of the entire layout, but they're not necessarily part of the smelter. They use yellow belts, blue inserters, they use small utility poles, they use steel furnaces, and they actually have an input for coal. This is something that's important for smelting early game. Late game, we don't need the coal for smelting anymore. We've got electric furnaces. So I've went ahead and laid out another blueprint for that. Now I'm going to point out that this particular layout, composed of electric furnaces, does in fact include the electrical substations. That is part of the layout. Plus, I've designed it in such a way where the entire array fits within the borders of 2 substations. So therefore, you can tile 2 of these prints next to each other, and their substations will connect. And you don't have to add any more poles or anything like that. You can just have those substations. As long as you've got enough materials for the blueprint, you can lay them side by side. They won't interfere with each other, but they will connect via their substations. So that I'm going to include as well. I think it's my design. I think it's a super awesome, super efficient design. And you can use it for steel, copper, iron, or whatever. Number 5, Research Center. This is arguably the most important structure you're going to build in Factorio prior to winning the game. This is the structure that's going to help you reach the technology levels enough to build a rocket and win the game. After that, then the whole world is your oyster. But to win the game, this is going to be the center of your factory. Not long ago, the developers of Factorio increased the number of science packs in the game from 4 to 7, which created kind of a problem when it comes to actually setting up a system that will load science packs into the science labs. So I think I've come up with a really slick design. We have a total of 4 belts running in loops, interlocking with one another, and it gives each science lab access to all types of science. And if it doesn't seem visible now, I'll go ahead and add a couple of inserters here. Now we'll give it a few minutes to get all the science packs onto the belts, but you will see how all the belts can carry all the science packs to all the labs. Now, as you can see, all the belts are loaded with science packs, and all the labs have all 7 science packs in them, which just shows that all the labs can access all the belts and get all the science. So this is a really slick design, if I do say so myself. Now, the design is composed of basically 2 end caps and a bunch of center sections. But the end caps can be rotated. They are rotationally symmetric, and at least together they're rotationally symmetric. And then you can add as many center sections as you like, and they are tileable. You can add 2, you can add 50. It's all up to you. But all you have to do is place them like this. You've got your 4 inputs on this end, and then you'll have this is an identical section here at the bottom, the 4 inputs at the other end. You only end up needing 3 because there's only 7 science, but the 8th is there just for versatility. So I will absolutely include those with the blueprints. Now notice, these are constructed using early game materials like yellow belts, yellow underground belts, small utility poles, blue inserters, because obviously your whole point of building this is to get your technology up and running, so there's no point in trying to build it out of advanced technology parts when you need this lab to get that technology. So let's not put the cart in front of the horse, and let's give you the ability to build it as soon as the beginning of the game as possible. Oh, one more thing. Also notice in the center section, I've left a gap here so that if you decide to add beacons to increase your research speed, you can absolutely do that. So it is upgradable, it's modular, it's tileable, it's awesome. Okay, number 6 on the list of must-have Factorio blueprints is the Red Science Assembly Area. And as you see here, I've got it running, demonstrating how it works. We've got 1 assembly machine producing gear wheels and 10 using copper and gear wheels to produce red science. So all the ratios have already been figured out for you. So all you need to do is just use the blueprint I include and cut and paste, and there you go. And number 7, green science component assemblers. So if you look here, we've got 10 assembly machines arrayed in such a way to produce yellow inserters and yellow belts. That's just what I call them, by their color. And right here you can see the output. The output can be sent to a bunch of assembly machines that take those components and make green science out of them. And those can be arrayed any way you like. It's fairly simple. You don't need a conveyor belt or you don't need a blueprint to do it. I would say go ahead, arrange that on your own. But at least here you can see the iron plates and copper plates as they come in. Here's their inputs. And you can see how they are fed along the belts and how they produce the green chips. The green chips are fed to the yellow inserter assembly areas, and then they're combined with the belts. So pretty simple. So there you go, green science component assemblers. And number 8 is green chip assemblers. Now these are going to be some of the most used items in the game. You're going to be producing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions of them throughout the game. So this is a very nice ratio here. 3 copper coils or 3 copper cables to 2 assemblers that produce green chips. And as you can see, I've got it marked here where copper inputs and iron inputs and then the outputs. And if you'd like to see them work, we'll add the inserting machines. So there you go. That's how they work properly. And when you produce them on a large scale, then you can start to actually take this modular design and then just start adding on to it. So you can just start multiplying it, making many of those, treat them like modules. I won't say they're tileable, but they are expandable. So there you go. This is all the arrangement you need to produce green chips. Okay, number 9 is protective structures. And for this, we're concentrating primarily on laser turrets and walls. So if the game scenario you're playing has biters that freely roam the map, then you're going to want something to protect your base. So we've got obviously this is the exterior. I sure hope that I don't have to explain why. But we've got the exterior of the wall, and on the interior we've got these laser turrets, and then exactly the width of the area of one substation, we've got the laser turrets. Basically, we can take this tile, we can take this component and just tile it. And then you can rotate it in whichever direction you like. Or if you want to just set up a wall, you can do that as well. But, you know, we all saw Pacific Rim. You know, you can't just set up a wall to stop an active creature. You have to do something to stop the creature. So, and the creatures here are very active, so be ready. Also, we've got an example here that I had used with a wall with basically laser turrets and walls on both sides, because I was basically trying to divide up areas that were hostile in such a way that they could not move around and eventually would weaken by killing themselves off, and then I could come in and then wipe the areas out piecemeal one at a time, and then it was basically temporary, but I needed protection on both sides. But one of the most important is probably this structure here. If you're going to go on the offensive, then you need structures like this, where you can carry your RoboPort and you carry it on your back. You can carry all these components in your inventory, and then when you come up to a biter base, and let's say you want to attack it with your tank, you can set this whole component up. You can just drop it in place with your robots, go attack a biter base, and then come back and take shelter while you repair or whatever it is you have to do. And then the biters follow you, but then they'll be attacked by this, they will be beaten up by this defensive structure here. So you can just kind of take shelter behind it. And then if you like to do the turret creep method, you can build this, and then as you cut into the biter base, you could take your blueprint and drop it in front of this one, and it would connect. It would further your attack. So yes, one of these structures has a RoboPort in it, the other has a radar. Let's say you want to set this up in a permanent basis to keep an eye on the biters, and if the biters are attracted to your radar, you've got defensive measures in these turrets to take care of them. So there's a couple of really important ideas that you could employ in your fight against the biters. Number 10, nuclear processing arrays. So let's say you've gotten to late game and you want to set up nuclear power. You're going to find that the centrifuges that you need, you're going to need quite a lot of them to process the nuclear fuel you're going to need. So here is a tile right here. This is a tile that you can use to, say, process your raw uranium. And right here is the input, and it takes the uranium ore and it actually splits it into uranium-238 and uranium-235, and you can see how that works if you look carefully. And this is tileable. You can place it right next to another, to another, to another. Just like that, they should work just fine tiling. Also, I've got a very basic setup here for Covarex enrichment. Covarex enrichment is super important when you get into nuclear weapons because you're going to need an incredible amount of uranium-235. So this actually, and also you will be producing a lot of uranium-238 and you won't know what to do with it. So you're going to want to have Covarex enrichment, and that takes the uranium-238, the waste product, and combines it to help make the good stuff that you're going to need. And before you know it, if you run enough of these, for example, an array like this one here, complete with beacons and everything, and imagine if you will, say 5-10 of these tiles right here, you're going to process through your nuclear waste pretty quickly. So this is pretty awesome, but this one is pretty expensive. This one also works, but it's very basic. So anyway, yes, nuclear processing. Here's an arrangement of nuclear reactors that works pretty well. You want to keep your reactors close together because there is actually a neighbor bonus the closer they are to one another when they run the reactors. Okay, so before we move on to number 11, I kind of want to give you a hint, give you a tip, if you will. When you produce these blueprints, notice when we produce them that we can rotate them and we can translate them any way we want. But one thing we cannot do is flip them. We call it chiral, meaning you can translate it, you can rotate it, but unless you do something else, rotating and translating is not going to produce a mirror image of it. And most objects in the universe are chiral. So there are some mods that you can run. There are mods out there that you can run that will give you a mirror image of your blueprint. But because it's a mod, if you're trying to achieve vanilla achievements, because this game does differentiate between vanilla and modded, if you run any kind of mods, you won't be able to get vanilla achievements. So keep in mind that any blueprints you make in vanilla, you might want to consider making a mirror image. For example, this is a great big blueprint, but this side is a mirror image of this side. So in order to make this work, you would have to make two different blueprints or combine it into one big blueprint. But ideally, the smaller the blueprint we use, the better. So if you're going to make an object that you feel like you're going to make its mirror image as well, then you might want to make a blueprint that reflects that. We've got the feeds coming from this direction and then going out in that direction to the right. But we could do it from the left. Like imagine having one over here on the left side, but you would have to create an all new blueprint for that. So I would highly recommend then, if you produce a blueprint, try to produce a mirror image as well, especially when it comes to things you're going to be making a lot of, like railroad track arrangements, or maybe arrangements when you build walls, or these kind of nuclear processing or something. All of these things, it might benefit you to have a mirror image of the blueprint, because until they do it, the mods to this game have been great, but until they provide something like that in the options, we kind of have to cover it ourselves. I really wish they will. I'm sure they will at some point. It just makes too much sense to give you the option of, not just rotating, but flipping your blueprints. But as of yet, they don't exist in the vanilla game. Anyway, let's get on to number 11, which is oil refineries. So if you look here, you're going to see that we've got a whole line of oil refineries here, and this is very tedious to set up. And oil, when you refine it, you're going to need it in great quantities. So you're going to need 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 refineries in a row. So it's best if you can have a tileable design that you can use. And this design right here is 10 of them, and it is very tileable. So there you go, oil refineries. Also up here, here is a smaller version if you'd like to go that route. Whatever it is you do, you're going to need a lot of oil refineries. So make sure you have this blueprint in your collection. All right, coming in at number 12, Numeric Displays. So this isn't something that you absolutely have to have, really, but to me it's just a lot of fun. So let's say you have an item, let's say you have a box that you want to keep track of how many items are in it, and you don't want to keep going over and checking it and looking at the little text on it. And in this way, you can read the contents of a box and you can tell from quite a distance, obviously, how much is in it. So here's how this works. I'm not going to go into how this is created. However, if you look, constant combinator just simulates a chest, and it puts out a constant signal of some kind, and in this it's simulating that signal gray. There's 40 of it in the chest, air quotes. So what you would do is when you copy your number, when you copy this arrangement, you're going to go to each of these combinators, and every place there's an input, you're going to right click, you're going to go ahead, let's see, what was it, gray, yes. So anyway, you can change it to anything you want, but any place it says gray, go through, left click, and any place it says gray, just change it to whatever that you want to count. Let's say nuclear weapons, atomic bombs, whatever. So you want to count how many atomic bombs you have in your box. So you would go through and replace anything that says gray with a picture with the atomic bomb emblem, and just go through and change all of that. All 4 of them, or basically it's all down here. This is where you make the changes in these combinators. And then there's 4 changes to make per numeral. By the way, this can go away. These can stay. These right here can stay. But this constant combinator right here, this is very important, you can take it away, but whatever it is, in this case it's a red signal, so when you delete this, then make sure you take the red signal from another crate, whatever it is you're trying to count, and extend a red signal to that crate and do all the replacements that I talked about. But this goes away. Okay, this is just here for demonstration purposes. This goes away, but make sure that whatever it is you're counting, you give it a red signal. See this red cable? Make sure you extend a red cable from this combinator to whatever chest, and that you do all the changes. So hopefully that makes sense. It's a lot of fun to have it out there. I mean, you can just walk around the map and you can spot that from a mile away. So it works out pretty well. There's lots of videos on how to manipulate these, and I'll leave that to you to research, but this thing is a lot of fun, so by all means, a numeric display, tons of fun. Number 13, safe crossing gates. As anybody who's played Factorio knows, the trains are awesome, but they are deadly. As you go to walk around your base, you're going to see that you try to cross the tracks, which we do all the time, but let's say we've got our trains zipping around the tracks on rocket fuel. They're kind of hard to spot, and it's very easy to get hit by a train. So you can set up these crossing gates at designated places, and all the circuitry is set up for you. You just need to make sure you provide all of the materials needed. But you can set this up on a section of track, and when you walk, when this gate opens, the gate's open for you, it sends a signal to the rail signals and tells them, hey, stop the train. So therefore, if you want to cross the tracks, you set this up, and just you crossing at that spot will slow the train down and bring it to a stop. And here is a whole battery of them, because in one arrangement I was running 4 lanes of trains, and I wanted to bring my tank across on a fairly regular basis. So I set up this battery of gates, and you just walk across it, and you can see the signals change each time you go across. So very cool. See, as this turns red, and then this stays green, but oh yeah, that's right, because they're running in 2 different directions. These were running northbound and these were running southbound. So you can see that these signals right here on this side change to red, and then these signals up here change to red. The signal that doesn't change is just there to compartmentalize the gate, okay? Because otherwise, just this signal right there will shut down train traffic on however big a stretch you place, on however big a stretch it is from here to the next rail signal, if any. So I went ahead and added that rail signal, so it's just a self-contained unit. So you should just be good to go to place it right onto your tracks. So there you go, safe crossing gates. And number 14 is a day-night solar power cell. So here, as you know, in real life and Factorio, solar power only works during the day. So we've got this arrangement set up with the proper ratio of solar cells and accumulators. So this arrangement will collect enough power and produce enough power to supply 1 megawatt worth of load, and then it will store extra power in the accumulators, and it will sustain that 1 megawatt load throughout the night. And it's just big enough to fit within the tile of a substation. This is tileable, and you can go in every direction, east, west, north, south, and just keep adding to it, and the substations will connect themselves to keep it going. If you look down here, if you look up on the map and over here on the main screen, you're going to see that I have a whole bunch of these set up to power this this demonstration, so that you can see how it looks on the map, and this produces a huge amount of power. Right now we're supposedly producing 528 megawatts, and we're storing a good 7.1 gigajoules. So everything's already fully charged, so during the night the solar cells will die down, and then the accumulators will take over the charge. But if you want to do this, it sure helps if you bring along your robots, your portable RoboPort, and then you can just walk along and set these things up. You're just going to have power for days. It's great. You'll have this in your blueprint book, DayNight Solar Power Cell. And last but not least is the OffGrid radar site. This is important because as you walk around the map, you're going to want to explore things, and your radar will help you do that. You can place a radar set on the map, and the radar will open up just a huge portion of that map, probably somewhere in the order of, like if we add a radar set over here, boys, it's going to open our map way up. But we don't often have the ability to run power that far. So you can see this radar is still going. It's got the appropriate number of solar cells to keep it running and charge the accumulators. And the accumulators are plentiful enough so that they can keep that radar going throughout the night. So then by the time the sun comes back up, the radar's still going, and then the solar cells can start charging the accumulators again. So there you go, the OffGrid radar site. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you found this useful. Now, again, as I said, I'm going to put the link to this blueprint book in the description. Be sure to check it out. It's yours. You know, do whatever you want. Everything should be labeled, and by the time this goes live, there will be a link available for you. And again, hopefully this is inspiration for you to actually take your own ideas. This is what works for me. I like it, and I've been doing it for years. Even as the game has evolved, I've been evolving with it, but for the most part, if I find a design that works, I stick with it. So these have worked for me, and I hope they work for you. So good luck in factorying and conquering the planet and getting that rocket launched. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you've liked this material so far. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.
Thank you.